Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Tesla seem to be doing very little in regards to their energy business, at least nothing substantial when compared to the auto business, and actually barely any growth either. There's minimal consistency quarter over quarter. These batteries are currently worth a lot more when deployed into vehicles, so it makes sense from a business standpoint to allocate them to what generates the most profit. I believe at the moment they use pretty much just whatever excess batteries they have that aren't being used in autos, and they get used to energy storage. But not only that, we're consistently hearing losses of energy too, which is probably extra incentive to not grow that side of the business too much. So let's go through the megapack business to see if we can work out the potential it might have, and at the end of the video I try and calculate what it might mean for the stock price. We do have a good case example though, Tesla's battery in Hornsdale, South Australia. It saved customers over Australian $150 million in just a 2 to 3 year period, and was then further extended again, all up with a total cost of Australian $172 million and has 193 megawatt hour capacity. Tesla likely built this at an overall loss, but probably wasn't too far off break even. It was so long ago, I believe they might have even used 18650 batteries, so if they use 2170 batteries today, then Tesla could probably build it cheaper. Of course, 2170 batteries are far from ideal for energy storage, but the point I'm trying to make is that Australia had about a 40% return on investment with purchasing the batteries. That's huge, and obviously worth doing. Okay, sure, Australia does have higher energy costs, and they were suffering from blackouts, which makes it even worse. But either way, it has served as a great product. But since then, we know LFP batteries are ideal for storage, and cost significantly less. And then on the Q2 call, we just heard that Tesla are eventually going to launch their own LFP batteries. It is somewhat believed that the 4680 batteries will get down to about 55 kilowatt hours at the pack level, at least eventually. Now, as amazed as I was by these numbers, that circulated around somewhat after battery day, I assumed that this would have been for the iron-based cathode. But now we've just heard that the 4680s will only be nickel-based. In other words, Tesla's LFP batteries will cost quite a bit less than that again. Now, an iron-based cathode is about half the price of a nickel already, but then also, Tesla will make a new form factor designed around LFP, perhaps one for energy storage and one for vehicles, which will in turn be an even more cost-effective form factor for its purpose. So we could be seeing LFP batteries at $25 to $30 kilowatt hour at the pack level. This is absolutely ridiculous. I really can't believe it. It doesn't sound like Tesla can start producing LFP batteries actually until 2022 due to the patent being exclusive to China, but CATL have actually also been working on sodium-ion LFP batteries, which sound like they might have potential as well. There is still an insane amount of research and development left for batteries, and by the time Tesla do release their LFP battery, then who knows what level they might actually achieve by that stage. Okay, so Tesla have also released their price list for megapack battery storage. Elon also said megapacks are sold out through until the end of next year. They have 1.5 years of back orders already to fill. In other words, this is another Tesla product that is far from constrained by demand. Now, if you order a 100 megawatt hour megapack, then the price is $29 million, excluding taxes. Okay, so 100 megawatt hours is 100,000 kilowatt hours. If Tesla are at $30 per kilowatt hour, then that's $3 million cost at the pack level, and they're selling for $30 million. Okay, this is the cost of the battery pack, and there's obviously much more to it than that, such as land and all the connectivity associated, along with labour, transportation. It all adds up. Now, I'm being a little speculative here, but if we doubled the cost from $3 million to $6 million installed, then that is 80% gross profit margin. Okay, even if it was $7 million more to install than the cost of the $3 million battery, which I would have thought was highly conservative by this stage, then we're still at nearly 70% margin. This is absolutely crazy. I was never expecting this. Okay, so how much income does Tesla stand to make from these batteries for energy storage? Well, I think we can stick with the assumption that every battery made will be sold, and at these margins. So the question comes down to, how many of these batteries can Tesla make? Now, at a guess, the Australian battery would have been around $130 to $150 at the pack level. If we are now down to 25 to 30, then this is about 1/5 of the cost of what it was when installed. Of course, that battery was nearly 200 megawatt hours, but only initially around 150 megawatt hours in the first stage, and that managed to save around Australian $150 million in the 2.5 years, or around US $40 million a year. So if now that battery even costs $15 million, it was giving $40 million of value a year. Again, though, this is South Australia. It does have more value than a lot of other areas. But still, I think you get the point, which is even with this insane margin, these batteries are still incredibly good value. Okay, so let's try and calculate a rough idea of how much Tesla can make selling megapacks. Now, we need to determine how many batteries Tesla are producing and by when. Well, they're both arbitrary data points, but how about we use 500 gigawatt hours of batteries allocated, and perhaps Tesla might be at this level at around 2026. But either way, we will see how profitable energy can be when Tesla is deploying 500 gigawatt hours a year to megapacks. Use your own discretion to decide when you think that might be, but my quick guess is around 2026. Alright, so 500 gigawatt hours, well, that comes to 5,100 megawatt hour megapacks. Sure, the orders will be of all sorts of battery sizes, and the prices may vary per megawatt hour, depending on what you order, but we have to use some figure, so let's say 100 is the average. As we know, Tesla sell those for $29 million, and if we're at $30 per kilowatt hour at the pack level, then that is $3 million for 100 megawatt hours. And then it comes to $10 million total for all the other infrastructure, transportation, installation, leaving $19 million profit, which is still 65% margin. So this is easy. Tesla deploy 5,000 of these times $19 million. Well, that comes to $95 billion gross profit. Well, surely that business must be worth trillions then, particularly as its target is to eventually grow to perhaps 2 or 3 terawatt hours a year, or $400 to $600 billion gross profit. Okay, we're playing with stupid, ridiculous, unbelievable numbers here. How about we take the base number as 500 gigawatt hours and then create scenarios based on that? Like I said, it's up to you to determine when you think Tesla will be deploying this level of energy storage, but whether it's 2025 or 2028, the point really is that it will likely happen sometime, and when it does, well, the value of your shares will still have increased dramatically higher than the S&P index fund. Okay, well the prices are set, so what if the margins won't be quite as high as I thought? Let's see what the gross profit would be like at various profit margins. There's no arguing the revenue, as we're using 500 gigawatt hours and using Tesla's price, which comes to $145 billion total. At 20% margin, we're still at $30 billion gross profit, but that would obviously be a very low margin. I would say very few people could argue with a mid 30% margin as worst case scenario though, but that's around $50 billion gross profit. Now, to have reached this level, Tesla will have had to have demonstrated tremendous growth. The better you can show growth, then the higher the P/E ratio rises, as more investors have faith that you can achieve more, unless demand is starting to dwindle. However, this is a commodity with unlimited demand for a very long time. Okay, there's also going to be a significant amount of related OPEX too, but let's say a ridiculous number like $10 billion a year solely for the energy side, not the cars. There's also a lot of economies of scale from both as well, which I am excluding. Anyway, perhaps we are then around $40 billion EBITDA and maybe $35 billion net. So it wouldn't be out of the question to expect that perhaps by 2030, 1,500 gigawatt hours will be deployed, or 3 times growth. So let's say a P/E ratio of 50 is reasonable. Well, that would give us a valuation of around $1.5 trillion. Of course, I just took a margin that people find easier to swallow. What if we use the margin that we calculated previously? Well, it would be twice that, at $3 trillion. This is approximately 5 times Tesla's market valuation of today, in just potentially 5 years' time, and just the energy storage business. Well, actually not even the whole energy storage business, just the megapack business. There's Powerwall on top of that. And then there's the rest of the energy business on top of that. Oh yeah, and the order business. And wait, can someone remind me again why we're trading at around $700? And remember too, we're saying around 2026. Think how many more battery advances would have been made by that stage. Yet it's not like energy prices are going to have come down, and energy demand is only going to increase, particularly with the inception of electric vehicles and the transition to renewable energy. But wait, there's more. We have the whole side of virtual power plants and autobidder software in addition to that. A system that some people say is comparable to energy as Robo Taxis are to vehicles. Right, Robo Taxis. Well, a lot of people think that Tesla will stop selling cars to the public and solely make cars for themselves for Robo Taxis. Well, if the returns are so good with energy and the savings on electricity costs are so substantial, then might it be considered that Tesla might also stop selling megapacks and in turn sell energy storage and buy and sell back to the grid at a substantial profit? Tesla will have no problem reaching this level of cash flow to self-fund. But why stop there? It's not spoken about overly. Why shouldn't Tesla start their own solar farms? I mean, they make the solar panels already, and then if they had some enormous battery farms as well to complement them, then wouldn't that be a better business model for Tesla? Rather than selling the products to consumers? Tesla believe in vertical integration, so inevitably, why would they let other people profit from their product when they can do it themselves? Similar to owning their own robotaxi fleet with cars they manufacture, they could own their own energy company with solar panels they manufacture and store that energy and sell it back to the grid too. And then autobidder will become an AI arbitrage machine. It wouldn't take long for autobidder to predict the demand for energy. It could include lots of other factors like weather, times of the year, days of the week, events, and prepare for them all to generate an even continuous output for energy supply. And any excess energy they had, well, they could mine Bitcoin if they chose. Okay, I don't know what sort of numbers we could do here, but it wouldn't surprise me if Tesla could make $50 to $100 billion a year from 500 gigawatt hours of energy storage, and possibly a similar investment in solar to supplement. $50 to $100 billion a year. That's crazy, right? Can you imagine what that would do to the stock price if Tesla was able to generate that much revenue in-house every year? And what is the cost of this revenue? Well, it's zero. You don't need to pay the sun for its energy, and the battery storage is a one-off cost, so it's practically all profit, save perhaps some maintenance. Well, actually, not all the math has been taken into consideration. What have I missed? Well, this is Tesla. And what is Tesla about? Exponentials. Do you realize where we're going? Well, this was the income that 500 gigawatt hours would generate every year. But we're saying that every year, Tesla is deploying 500 gigawatt hours more megapacks in this scenario. So actually, every year, the revenue would be increasing by $50 to $100 billion. Okay, we're already into unbelievable status here. So what if after 3 years of producing 500 gigawatt hour megapacks a year, the gross profit from these megapacks would be in the region of $150 to $300 billion a year? No, wrong again. This is Tesla. We have exponentials, plural, not just one. Remember, the amount of batteries Tesla produce each year will also increase exponentially. So if Tesla grew their megapack business by 50% a year, then after 3 years, well, the first year they produced 500, second year 750, and third year 1,125 gigawatt hours of megapacks. But that's how many they produce a year, not the total accumulation. Over those 3 years, Tesla would have accumulated 2.4 terawatt hours of storage, or 4.75 500 megawatt hour packs. And if we thought 500 megawatt hours was potentially worth $50 to $100 billion a year, then we're now talking about $237 to $475 billion a year. Oh, and this is a totally recession-proof product and extremely inelastic. In other words, that is valuable to investors. In fact, in a recession, business might even do better due to people wanting to save more money on energy. Anyway, due to that, it gets a higher PE. Oh, and of course, we know Tesla does plan on growing more than that. So there is still growth that should be valued in too. But throw a PE ratio of 30 at it, and you have a market cap of $15 trillion, or about $15,000 stock price. Of course, we have the rest of the business left too. But okay, admittedly, I have thrown a few numbers around. Even if I am significantly incorrect, it still looks like the kind of company you want to remain invested in. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.